The text came through at 11:51 p.m. I was staring at my laptop, trying to untangle a dataset, when my phone lit up on the desk. It was from my mother. Brenda. 3 sentences. Alice. Don't call or come over anymore. Your sister and I have talked. We've agreed you're no longer a part of this family. My screen refreshed. A second later, a small heart icon appeared next to the message. My sister, Rachel, had loved it. I stared at the glowing loved icon. I didn't cry. I didn't text back why I didn't throw my phone. The shock lasted for maybe 15 seconds. And then it was replaced by a cold, quiet clarity. The kind of clarity I usually get right before solving a complex data problem. My family had just defined our relationship as a transaction. They had declared me obsolete. Fine. I would balance the books. I put my phone face down. I didn't turn it off. I wanted to see the incoming messages later. I turned to my laptop. I'm a data analyst. My life runs on spreadsheets. I opened the one file I look at every single day, Miller Family Budget Master. It was 11:52 p.m. I navigated to the Monthly Allocations tab. Line item Family Support. B. Miller. Amount $3,000. I highlighted the cell. I hit delete. The spreadsheet automatically recalculated. My personal savings forecast instantly jumped. Next, I opened my online banking portal. Scheduled payments. By Brenda Miller. Purpose phone bill. Amount $212. I clicked cancel future payments. Payee Rachel Miller. Purpose car insurance. BMW. Amount $460. Cancel future payments. Payee Viridian Apartments. Purpose Rachel. Rent subsidy. Cancel future payments. I went down the list. The gas card, the joint streaming accounts, the grocery delivery subscription. Click. Cancel. Click. Cancel. Click. Cancel. I finished at exactly 12:03 a.m. 12 minutes. It took me 12 minutes to financially dismantle a support system I had spent the last 5 years building. This wasn't an emotional breakdown. It was an audit. And the Miller family, they had just failed it. I went to bed, and, for the first time in years, I actually slept. It wasn't a peaceful sleep, but it was deep. There was no 3 a.m. jolt of panic, wondering if Rachel would make her rent or if Mom's electricity would be shut off. I woke up to the digital explosion I knew was coming. My phone looked like a Christmas tree of notifications. 17 missed calls. All from my mother, Brenda, and a string of texts. Each one a perfect little snapshot of her deteriorating panic. The first ones were just confused entitlement. Mom. 7:03 a.m. Alice? My card was declined at the gas station. Fix it. Mom. 7:15 a.m. Is your phone broken? I'm trying to buy groceries and it's embarrassing. Call me. Then, as the cancellations rippled through their morning, the confusion curdled into rage. Mom. 8:30 a.m. What did you do? Rachel just called me. Her car insurance is canceled. What is wrong with you, Mom? 8:32 a.m. This isn't a joke. Alice, you have created a terrible mess. You call me this instant. We need to talk about what you've done. There it was. Not. Are you okay? Not. Did we hurt you? Not. Maybe we should talk about last night. It was. Look at the mess you've created. They weren't horrified by their cruelty. They were just furious that the ATM was suddenly out of service. They were outraged that the utility they'd thrown in the trash had stopped working. But the real confirmation, the part that iced over any remaining flicker of doubt, came from Rachel. She hadn't texted me. Of course. She hadn't called. Rachel doesn't do direct conflict. She performs. She communicates to her audience. I still followed her on Instagram. I opened the app. A new story was at the top of my feed. Posted just 10 minutes ago. It was a selfie video of her, looking impossibly serene. Sitting in her BMW, the one I was no longer insuring. She held a vibrant green matcha latte. She smiled gently at the camera. A look of profound, sad wisdom on her face. The caption read, "Just feeling so grateful this morning for knowing when to cut out toxic energy. It's hard. But protecting your peace is the #1 priority. Sometimes the people you love most are the biggest obstacle to your growth." I actually laughed. It wasn't a bitter laugh. It was clarifying. Toxic energy. An obstacle. She was live streaming her own bravery while sitting in the very asset I was paying for. Sipping a $7 latte funded by the toxic energy she was so proud of cutting off. They felt no remorse. They felt justified. I closed Instagram. I looked at the 17 missed calls from Brenda. I didn't block their numbers. I just silenced the thread. Their escalation gave me all the permission I needed. The emotional phase was over. Now, it was just strategy. This was no longer a family dispute. This was a severance, and it was time to make it official. The anger from Rachel's Instagram post didn't last. It didn't even sting. It just clarified. It turned into pure, cold strategy. The texts and calls kept coming. A frantic digital storm. But I just silenced the thread. They were noise. Emotional clutter. I was done with emotion. It was time for professionals. I called Sarah. Sarah and I had been roommates in college. 2 scholarship kids who survived on instant noodles and data theory. I'd gone into analytics. She'd gone into family law. She was the kind of lawyer who smiled sweetly while filing motions that could financially dismantle you. I laid it all out. The 11:51 p.m. text. The loved icon. The 12-minute financial severing. She was quiet for a moment. Then, "Okay. Good. I'm proud of you. Alice. Now, what's the goal? Do you want to hurt them? Or do you just want to be free?" "I just want to be free," I said. "I don't even care about the $35,000 a year. That's gone. That was the price of my education. I've learned my lesson. I'm leaving the park." "I hear you," Sarah said. And I could hear her typing. But wasn't there something else? A few years ago, something concrete. My mind flashed to it instantly. "The business loan," I said. $50,000. Grandma Clara had given it to me. An interest-free loan from her personal savings to help me get my advanced data certifications and the equipment to start my freelance career. But since I was just starting out, she had insisted on one thing. My mother co-signed for it. I said, "Brenda is the guarantor on the contract." The typing on Sarah's end stopped. "Alice, you have a signed, legally binding contract with Brenda's signature on it, guaranteeing full repayment." "Yes," I said, pulling up the scanned PDF on my laptop. "I'm looking at it right now." "Send it to me," she said. Her voice was different now. It wasn't my friend anymore. It was the lawyer. "We don't chase the $3,000 a month. That's a gift. They'll argue in court for years. But $50,000 with a signature. That's not a family squabble. That's a debt. And we," she said, "are going to collect What do we do? We escalate. Sarah replied. We move this out of the text thread and into the legal record. I'm drafting a formal demand letter. It will state that due to the unilateral dissolution of the family arrangement, the loan is being called in full, as per the default clause. Brenda and Rachel have 30 days to present a repayment plan before legal action is taken. I let that sink in. A formal demand letter. Legal action. This wasn't a daughter being angry at her mom anymore. This was a creditor contacting a debtor. Do it. I said. The game had changed. They thought they were kicking out a dependent. They had just activated a creditor. Sarah sent the demand letter via certified mail that afternoon. I spent the rest of the day in a cold, focused haze, running data models for a client. The texts from Brenda and Rachel had stopped my silence, followed by a formal legal threat, had clearly terrified them. Good. But the quiet only lasted 24 hours. Sarah called me the next day. And her voice was completely different. The strategic, confident tone was gone. She sounded shaken. Alice, she said. Sit down. I mean it. I stopped pacing my apartment. Sarah, what's wrong? Okay. Standard procedure. When we prepared the suit for the $50,000, I ran a full asset check on Brenda. And, as part of due diligence on the co-signed contract, I checked the status of the publishing house, the company Grandma Clara founded. And, Alice. A new will was filed with the probate court 3 months ago. 2 weeks after Grandma Clara passed. A cold dread crept up my spine. What are you talking about? Grandma Clara's will is with her attorney, Mr. Hayes. She left the publishing house to me. She was adamant. She wanted me to protect it. To modernize it. This new will, Sarah said, reading from a document, revokes all previous testaments. It leaves 100% of the Miller Publishing House, its assets, and all related properties. To Brenda. Rachel is named as the secondary beneficiary. You're not mentioned. Not even $1. My hands started to shake. That's impossible. 3 months ago, Grandma couldn't. Sarah? She couldn't sign her own name 3 months ago. She had advanced dementia. She barely recognized me. I know. Alice. Sarah said softly. The signature is clean. Too clean. But that's not even the worst part. That's why I'm calling you. I waited. Brenda didn't wait for the will to be probated. She's been busy. 6 months ago, before your grandmother died, Brenda took out 3 massive, high-interest business loans. She leveraged the publishing house. She used the company assets as collateral. The room tilted. Wait. She couldn't do that. She didn't own it. It wasn't hers to leverage. Exactly. Sarah said, her voice hard as steel. She committed bank fraud. Alice, she was stealing from your grandmother while she was still alive. And suddenly, my data analyst brain kicked in. And the entire timeline snapped into focus with sickening clarity. The pieces slotted together. The $35,000 a year I'd been sending, it wasn't for Rachel's BMW. It was to service the interest on those fraudulent loans. The constant, frantic emergencies weren't for parties, they were margin calls. The fake will, it wasn't just a simple, greedy inheritance theft. It was a desperate, criminal cover-up. Brenda had been funneling money out of the company for months. She knew the entire thing was about to collapse. She knew the bank was about to foreclose on a business she had illegally leveraged. She needed that fake will to be probated. to gain legal ownership retroactively, so she could sell off the assets and cover the bank fraud before she was exposed. And the text? The 11:51 p.m. text. May God. It wasn't an emotional outburst. It wasn't a family squabble. It was a calculated, preemptive strike. She knew the real Ermi was the only person who could stop the probate, expose the fraud, and send her to prison. She had to disown me, isolate me, and paint me as toxic before the financial endgame began. This wasn't a family drama. It was a crime scene. And they had used my own money to help fund it. The lawsuit Sarah filed contesting the will was the first domino. The bank, seeing a legal challenge to Brenda's ownership, immediately froze the company's accounts and accelerated their fraud investigation. The whole house of cards began to topple. And it only took a week. A week later, there was a frantic, desperate pounding on my apartment door. Not a polite knock, a barrage of fists. I looked through the peephole. It was Brenda. But it wasn't the put-together, condescending mother I knew. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes were red and puffy. And she was vibrating with raw panic. I opened the door. Alice, she gasped, pushing past me into my entryway. Thank God. You have to do something. You have to call them. I just stood there, leaning against the doorframe. Call who? Mom. The bank. They're talking about liquidation. They're calling the loans. Alice. They're going to take the publishing house. They're going to take everything. She was fully hyperventilating now, pacing my small living room. This is a nightmare. It's a misunderstanding. Your grandmother wanted me to have the company. You know that. You have to tell them to stop. I just watched her all my life. I'd been terrified of this woman's moods. Her disapproval. Her sighs. Now, I looked at her. And I felt nothing. Just quiet. I can't stop them. I said, my voice perfectly level. What do you mean? You can't stop them. You're the one who started this. You and that. That lawyer, friend of yours, this is your fault. No, I said. This is your fault. I know about the loans. Mom. She froze. The color drained from her face. I know. I continued. That you took out 3 fraudulent loans against Grandma's company before she died. I know you've been siphoning money for months. I know my $35,000 was just paying your interest. And I know you forged her will to try and cover it all up before the bank found out. She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing. The narcissistic rage was gone, replaced by the hollow-eyed terror of being caught. She tried one last, pathetic time. Her face crumpled. Tears. Real or fake? I couldn't tell. Streamed down her cheeks. Alice. Please. She whispered, grabbing my arm. Your sister. Rachel. She'll be ruined. She's fragile. She won't survive this. Do it for her. Please. I'm your mother. I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back up to her face. I saw every lie, every manipulation. Every time she'd called Rachel the golden one and me the difficult one. I already did something. I said. I pulled my arm away, walked to my desk, and picked up a single manila envelope. I'd been waiting for this moment. I handed it to her. She fumbled with the clasp, pulling out the papers. Her eyes scanned the first page. What is this? That. I said, is a copy of the civil suit I filed. The one contesting the will based on forgery and elder fraud. I sent a full copy of my findings, including the loan agreements you faked, directly to the bank's forensics department and the district attorney. She looked up from the paper, her face a mask of utter disbelief. She finally understood. I hadn't just called her bluff. I had ended the game. You wouldn't, she whispered. I stepped back and opened my apartment door. See you in court, Mom. And I gently closed it, locking the deadbolt as she stood, silent, in the hallway. The lawsuit never made it to court. Confronted with the mountain of evidence, Sarah had compiled the 2 wills, the bank's fraud report, the testimony from my Aunt Deborah detailing my mother's past financial cons. Brenda and Rachel folded. They signed the settlement. They relinquished all claims to Grandma Clara's estate. The original, valid will was entered into probate. The publishing house, my grandmother's legacy, was already too far gone. The bank liquidated its remaining assets to cover the fraudulent loans Brenda had taken. When the dust finally settled, the rest of the estate, the remaining cash from the liquidation, was wired to my account. I looked at the final number. After all the legal fees, it was almost exactly the amount I had funneled to them over the years. My investment had been returned in full. Their criminal case was swift, with Aunt Deborah's testimony establishing a long-term pattern. The judge was unsympathetic. Brenda was found guilty of fraud and elder abuse. She got 5 years. Rachel, ever the golden child, painted herself as a manipulated victim and got 3 years probation. That night, I sat at my laptop. I opened the Miller Family Budget master spreadsheet one last time. All those red numbers. All those years of sacrificing my own future to prop up their lies. I stared at the total $35. Ling ling ling. 50美元. Ling ling ling. I highlighted the entire file. And I hit delete. And then, to my own surprise, I cried. I sat there at my desk and I cried. But it wasn't for them. I finally understood what I was feeling. It was grief. I wasn't grieving my mother or my sister. I was grieving the idea of them. I was grieving the 28 years I had spent desperately trying to earn the love of a family that was never capable of giving it. I was grieving for the little girl who just wanted her mom to see her. I was grieving the family I deserved but would never have. When the tears stopped, I wiped my face. The emptiness was gone, replaced by that same cold clarity from the night it all began. I opened a new, blank spreadsheet. The inheritance money sat in my bank account. I could have bought a new car, a new apartment. I could have flown to Bali myself. Instead, I created a new line item. I called my financial advisor the next morning. I established the Clara Miller Foundation, a scholarship fund for women pursuing careers in data analytics. Women like me. Women who see the patterns. I'd spent my entire adult life investing in people who saw no value in me. Now, I was investing in people who did that. My name is Alice. I'm a data analyst. And my books are finally perfectly balanced.